Kia ora, good evening. I'm Hannah Wilkins. It's been a very busy 2023 and our teams have been out and about across Otago, Southland and Canterbury, capturing the news happenings and events across the regions and telling your stories on video. Now it's time to look back at the year in news, starting with January. The year began with a big shake-up for the Labour government, while in Dunedin, city councillors prepared for a fight. Meanwhile, supply shortages across many industries hit people where it really hurts, with an increase in fish and chip prices.
Dunedin city councillors united in January, condemning plans to trim the design and budget for the city's new hospital, warning that government lives could be put at risk. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern choked back tears as she announced her resignation from the top job and plans to exit politics.
This has been the most fulfilling 5.5 years of my life, but it has also had its challenges.
In Glenorchy, the police dive squad found the body of Australian man Jonathan Young, who drowned trying to save a small boy from drowning in Lake Wakatipu. Indoors was also off-limits for some. Queenstown's Alpine Aqualand was one of a number of public swimming pools forced to close for periods due to mass shortage of lifeguards.
Look, this is critical. We have only closed once in the last 6 years for COVID, but this time, realistically, we have to close every weekend.
Otago's chicken farm saw heavy demand in free-range eggs after a government ban on battery cages, which led to a shortage of eggs in supermarkets. Meanwhile, the price of the humble fish and chip meal surged and blamed on a worldwide potato shortage.
People realise that prices are going up. People expect price increases in the menu, so we do always talk to our customers about it, just so that they're always aware, especially tourists.
In Wanaka, semi-retired social cycling team the Wanakoffies helped trial new anti-drafting technology developed by a local designer. While in Queenstown, riders of all ages took to the area's tracks for a 10-day bike festival. And in Dunedin, thousands of residents enjoyed a range of performances outside the Lan Yuan Chinese Garden, bidding farewell to the Year of the Tiger and ushering in the Year of the Rabbit. Across the South today.
February saw schools back across the country and tertiary students returning to Dunedin. Meanwhile, fires tore through parts of the south and cultural celebrations were held to celebrate Waitangi Day.
A thick bellowing cloud of black smoke carrying through Otago in mid-February after a pile of rubber was set ablaze at an industrial site. The fire was eventually contained and prevented from spreading. But in Palmerston, a fire took its toll on a family home. Despite fire crews' best efforts in this case, they were unable to save the house.
And we managed to knock the fire down reasonably quickly, but as you can see, the house unfortunately is a write-off.
Outram school pupils were keen to get back from summer break to try out their new $150,000 playground, while it was all quiet at Glenham School in Gore, with the doors shutting for good after 123 years. University students returned to Dunedin with a roar, enjoying O-Week celebrations without COVID-19 restrictions for the first time since 2020.
So it's great to be back. It's great for students who've had 3 years of COVID-fueled learning to be able to come back and experience university how it was when I started.
Waitangi Day was celebrated across the south, including a massive turnout for the Ngāi Tahu Treaty Festival at the Dunedin's Otago Marae.
And each time it's got bigger. Weather's been on our side each time, of course, but we have been building our infrastructure to cope with these occasions.
Queenstown's Coronet Peak was still busy despite being outside of the snow season, the resort hosting the National Mountain Bike Championships and also putting on a stunner for the Craft Beer and Barbecue Summit. And in Invercargill, engines roared for an entire week as motorbikes took to Oreti Beach and local street circuits for the annual Burt Munro Challenge. Across the South today.
One of the big ongoing stories in March was a fight back against proposed cuts to the Dunedin hospital build. There were also protests for better pay and more housing, along with international sports action in golf and yachting.
An investigation into a drive-by shooting in Dunedin in early March brought an arrest, with a 25-year-old man charged with attempted murder. The month saw a period of protests across the south, teachers going on strike for better pay and conditions, while in Queenstown workers rallied against the growing housing crisis in the resort town. Dunedin city councillors ramped up their health campaign, They Save, We Pay, after Te Whatu Ora announced $90 million worth of budget cuts to plans for the new hospital build.
The redesign of the inpatient building has pushed the timetable out to a 2029 opening, and where it was a 2028 opening, there's no change to the delivery date for the outpatient building.
As March brought the start of autumn, heavy rain and gale force winds rattled Dunedin, causing power cuts in parts of the city and uprooting trees. But some international sports people were making the most of the finer days as the New Zealand Golf Open swung into action in Queenstown. Meanwhile, Littleton starred on the international sailing stage, showcasing high-speed action on the harbour as the town hosted the inaugural New Zealand Sail Grand Prix. Down south, Waikaka successfully trialled a new rugby 10s tournament, and in Dunedin, excitement ramped up ahead of the FIFA Women's World Cup with a day of football for young women.
The girls start to see it. If they can see it, they believe that it's coming, and then they get really excited and they go home, they want to buy tickets, they want to get involved, they want to play football.
It was food and drink season in the south, with the Southland Multicultural Food Festival, weird bites at the Hokitika Wild Food Festival, and a celebration of the vineyards in Wanaka's Ripe Wine and Food Festival.
And also set in this beautiful, picturesque Wanaka location, showing off Central Otago.
Meanwhile, Irish spirit took over Dunedin as students dressed up in their greenest attire to mark St Patrick's Day. Across the South today.
April saw the Labour government backtrack on some of its policies and plans under new leader Chris Hipkins. Meanwhile, Anzac Day was commemorated across the south and festivals were held to mark the autumn season.
April saw Labour Minister Kieran McAnulty revealing a reset to the government's controversial Three Waters legislation after many months of protest. The policy was rebranded as Affordable Water Reforms, one of a raft of changes under new Prime Minister Chris Hipkins. Health Minister Aisha Verrill visited Dunedin to announce a partial U-turn on the government's plans to cut back on design costs for the city's new hospital.
Our focus is on making sure that the building can deliver the clinical services we all want for Dunedin.
Anzac Day commemorations were held in cities and towns across the south, with young and old paying respects to the fallen soldiers of World War I and II. Thousands of Queenstown residents gathered at the War Memorial to mark the 108th anniversary of the Gallipoli landings, many more in Dunedin, standing shoulder to shoulder for the first time since the COVID-19 outbreak.
Take the time to stop and read the names on the war memorials. Think about what they endured.
Invercargill saw time turn back half a century for the inaugural George Bigg Motorsport Festival, crowds enjoying a series of races and events over 3 days. And in central Otago, more than 20,000 people from across the country were treated to a wide variety of vehicles of all shapes and sizes for the biennial Wheels at Wanaka event.
We've got a tractor, truck and steam engine pull competition happening, the first of its kind in New Zealand.
In Invercargill, a procession of colourful classic minis celebrated the end of a marathon journey, the popular event paying tribute to the route taken in classic Kiwi film Goodbye Pork Pie. The small Banks Peninsula town of Little River swelled as 2,000 visitors were attracted by a big pumpkin festival with examples of all shapes and sizes on display. While in Arrowtown, more than 10,000 people explored the historic gold mining town, celebrating the annual Autumn Festival. And in Dunedin, classic pop rock fans from across the country partied at Forsyth Bar Stadium as rock star Sir Rod Stewart performed a concert alongside with Grammy Award-winning singer Cyndi Lauper. Across the South today.
Well, join us after the break as we continue our year in review, starting with May. Tēnā koe, welcome back. Police were kept busy in May in both Dunedin and Christchurch. There was sadness in Dunedin as a Highlanders rugby legend farewelled his beloved team. And there was joy across the south as the regions joined with the Commonwealth in the celebration of the coronation of King Charles III.
A 60-year-old Dunedin woman was arrested for murder in late May after police were called to her Tainui address where a man was found dead. And in Christchurch, the Armed Offenders Squad arrested 4 residents on a range of charges surrounding a house in the suburb of Hei during the day. In Gore, council dramas continued. Protesters gathered outside the council buildings in support of Mayor Ben Bell, celebrating during the meeting after a vote of no confidence in the mayor was abandoned.
Then we shall move on if there is no further discussion.
There was disruption at places of higher learning. Teachers across the country took to the streets, taking strike action to demand better pay and work conditions. The large budget blowout issues at Otago University boiled over with staff, with many joining in a stop work meeting, which turned to protest against proposed staff cuts.
Level of support come out, seeing that people are willing to stand up and say, this is not healthy for the university, this is not healthy for Dunedin in its whole, and this is not healthy for the tertiary education sector of New Zealand.
Across New Zealand, residents dressed up as celebrations were held across the country, the Union Jack flying proudly as Kiwis joined others across the Commonwealth in marking the coronation of King Charles III. In sport, Southern rugby fans said farewell to a great as Highlanders legend Aaron Smith played under the roof at Forsyth Bar Stadium for the final time in the blue and gold.
Enjoyed my ride and I've met some great people and I mean it from the bottom of my heart. Like, I love Dunedin and I've loved what they've given me as a man and supported me through thick and thin.
And the sounds of quacking and shotguns echoed across quiet rural spots as friends young and old got together for the start of the duck hunting season. Across the South today.
June saw winter begin to bite with cold temperatures hitting the regions. Then Prime Minister Chris Hipkins took a trip down south and voices and guitars twanged in Gore for the annual Golden Guitars.
A 340-kilometre high-speed car chase came to a head in Waitati in late June. There were no injuries, but a 30-year-old man was charged for dishonestly taking a vehicle, dangerous driving and failing to stop. But the plunging temperatures didn't prevent a fire from destroying beloved Caversham pub Mitchell's Tavern, which was determined to have been caused by an electrical fault. Dunedin welcomed then Prime Minister Chris Hipkins to the south. He was met with a vocal crowd at Otago University with protests against the institution's financial crisis.
We're certainly focused on helping them out by giving them quite a large increase in funding next year.
As June brought the official start of winter, Dunedinites ran into the icy ocean waters to support the St Clair Surf Lifesaving Club, while swimmers in central Otago braved Lake Wanaka for their own polar plunge. But the cooler temperatures were welcomed by some as Wanaka's Cadrona ski area opened for the winter season. Closer to Queenstown, skiers and snowboarders jostled to be the first of the season to ride the chairlift at Coronet Peak.
Obviously it's good bragging rights having the t-shirt, and for me this is my summer, this is the time of year when I enjoy myself.
Down south in Gore, music was echoing through the town as local school students hit the streets with their best beats for the Freeze Your Bits Off busking competition, part of the Gold Guitar Festival.
It's a judge between kapa haka and jazz, which is going on behind us. But just so fantastic and great to see the high school students out here, and we're on to the juniors next up, which will be good fun.
And the musical talent didn't stop there. The Country Music Honours also putting a spotlight on Gore, with Dunedin songwriter Matt Joe Gow taking out the top award. Across the South today.
July saw police busy searching for a missing Christchurch woman. In Dunedin, football fever took over the city as it played host to the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup, and Matariki celebrations were held across the south.
It was July when Christchurch realtor Yanfei Bao mysteriously disappeared, with the police upgrading her disappearance to a homicide investigation. Bao's body hasn't been found, but 52-year-old man Ting Jun Kao is charged with her murder and kidnapping, pleading not guilty in the High Court, with a trial set for October 2024. Meanwhile, as the election campaign ramped up, National Party leader Christopher Luxon visited Dunedin, pledging a multi-million-dollar plan to reverse planned cuts to the new Dunedin hospital build.
The National Party is going to build this hospital, but importantly, we're going to build this hospital back to the specification that it was originally intended.
Dunedin was also draped in international colours as the FIFA Women's World Cup kicked off 6 international group games at the Dunedin Stadium. The Switzerland women's team made themselves comfortable at their temporary base in the city, training at Tahuna Park ahead of their first game against the Philippines.
Everybody is so friendly and making it so easy for us to feel welcome and happy here, so that's great to see everybody today.
For the first time in over 150 years, Otago University introduced a fresh look to its branding, adopting a new logo and changing the Māori name to Ōtaku Whakaihu Waka. The changes sparked major backlash from staff and students, coming at a time when the university was grappling with a $60 million budget deficit. Those financial woes saw the university downsize its science communication department, among many others. But students joined together in protest against the proposed cuts.
We want to make sure that the university understands that we want our voices heard and we want to be part of this conversation rather than ask afterwards how we feel about these choices being made.
Cities and towns across the south celebrated the Māori New Year. In Queenstown, thousands of people enjoyed an array of performances for the resort town's Matariki celebrations, while in Dunedin, hundreds gathered at the steamer basin for a vibrant light and video show. And hundreds of young scientists explored the mysteries of chemistry at Otago University, one of many events scattered across Dunedin for the biennial New Zealand International Science Festival. Across the South Today.
August saw wintry blasts across the south. A long-serving Dunedin MP said farewell to politics, and rest home carers got a breath of fresh air as COVID-19 restrictions were finally lifted.
A taste of the icy blast of extreme weather that ravaged the south to close out the last month of winter. The late winter snow dumpings caused carnage on southern roads, with a number of crashes along Dunedin's Stewart Street as vehicles lost control on the black ice created by the freezing overnight temperatures. Queenstown also had its fair share of snow, which caused several fender benders on the streets, and another blast left some tourists stranded as the Crown Range route between Wanaka and Queenstown was closed. The extreme weather didn't stop there, a Canterbury farm getting flooded by the Hallswell River after heavy rainfall reversed the drainage system, causing it to overflow.
We have been at this property 3 years now. This is the second winter that we have had a moat around our house.
Sitting Dunedin Labour MP David Clark said goodbye to politics, bidding farewell to Parliament with his valedictory statement after 12 years of service. But as one left, another started their political career on a more local scale. Southland radio presenter and former NZ Idol star Steve Broad was sworn onto the Invercargill City Council after winning the by-election for a vacant council seat by more than 1,200 votes.
I'm dedicated to this role. I will work hard for all the voices in this city, and thank you for the honour of serving this community.
Horns were tooting and families waved along Dunedin streets as the 30th Special Rigs for Special Kids event put smiles on children's faces despite the damp weather. And smiles were also shining in rest homes as carers were finally able to remove their face masks with COVID-19 restrictions lifted after 3 years in place.
They cried out in joy really this morning. It was surreal coming through the lounge, and they were cheering and cheering the staff on for all their hard work really and keeping themselves safe by wearing the mask so long.
In central Otago, farming turned fashion as sheep-inspired garments were strutted down the runway for the welcome return of the Wool-On Creative Fashion event. But the future of the event's terrace venue is up in the air for next year. With the event continuing to grow in popularity, the capacity of the scenic venue may not be enough for the regional fashion event. Across the South Today.
September saw Queenstown in disarray after floods caused major damage, including at the cemetery, and the town was issued with a boil water notice. Meanwhile, politicians made their final rounds as election day loomed and netball fever took over the south.
September was a very tough month for Queenstown. Residents were issued with an official boil water notice after 15 people fell ill with cryptosporidium, which was blamed on tap water due to improper filters in the water treatment plants. The resort town also experienced mass flooding after a month's worth of rain came down in one night. Some residents were forced to evacuate their homes, the floods causing landslides, including logs and tree felling, which took out a third of the Queenstown cemetery.
You know, it's pretty confronting, so you can understand the anxiety, the noise that is coming out of our community around this incident. Those are our people in there.
Political party leaders did the rounds across the country, making their final visits before Election Day. Labour leader Chris Hipkins stopped off in Dunedin, proposing a plan to boost medical school places in the city by 335 spots. National leader Chris Luxon made his way to Queenstown, enjoying some of the tourist attractions and announcing his party's policies to help boost the tourism sector.
So we will firstly lift the upper age to apply for a working holiday visa in New Zealand from 30 to 35 for all eligible countries, and we will allow them to apply for a second or a third holiday visa if they work in areas of shortages like tourism.
Dunedin hosted the Netball New Zealand Open Champs, giving Premiership netballers the opportunity to showcase their skills at a national level. And in Christchurch, the city's brand new $16.5 million netball facility neared completion, creating a multi-sport centre for the whole community to enjoy.
We've got 10 netball courts here, and we've got a cafe. There's going to be a cafe on site. We've got an amazing mezzanine floor behind us that can be used for viewing netball and other things.
Back in Dunedin, the SPCA was looking to find canines their forever homes. Adoption numbers have been dropping over the years, with the organisation offering free discounts to encourage people to take home one of the furry friends. Across the South Today.
Well, stick around and join us after the break as we continue our year in review. We'll be starting off with October. Tēnā koe, welcome back. October began in chaotic style with a bomb threat at Queenstown Airport. The election campaign wrapped up in warmer spring weather, bringing a major change in government and a long period of negotiations.
Queenstown Airport was thrown into chaos in early October as a bomb threat grounded flights and sparked evacuations. However, all the disruption ended up being caused by a ski boot heater. A Dunedin boarding house burnt down in flames, although luckily there were no occupants in the building at the time. 57-year-old Paul McCurdy was later charged with arson at the Phillip Street property. This year's election campaign wrapped up in dramatic fashion, with a change on the cards after voters went to the polls. National MPs won the seats of Southland, Waitaki and Rangitata, but Labour hung on to its 2 seats in the traditional strongholds of Dunedin and Taieri.
I want to do everything that I can to represent it, and I'm excited to be in a position to be able to do that.
In mid-October, aviation entrepreneur Sir Tim Wallace passed away at age 85. The Royal New Zealand Air Force paying tribute to the aviation legend with a flyover at his funeral in Wanaka. Meanwhile in Gore, Mayor Ben Bell showed his comedic side after Auckland Mayor Wayne Brown dissed the southern town on national television.
Cameron mate, I don't think you can park here. Well, it's obviously too busy down here. Oh yeah, true. Oh well, Wayne Brown said it's okay.
The middle of spring brought sunny weather for Cromwell as the central Otago town hosted a street party, complete with acrobatic moves and cultural dance. In Canterbury, school children got their togs on as the first to get to test out 2 brand new high-tech hydroslides at Hanmer Springs.
Some fabulous technology. We've got LED lights, we've got LED lights that pulse, we've got rings that happen around the slide, and some movie projection as well.
And history was made in Dunedin as the Black Ferns played in the southern city for the first time since 1997. They ended up thrashing Wales by 70 points to 7 at Forsyth Bar Stadium. Across the South Today.
November saw a large whale beach up in Christchurch, with volunteers desperately trying to save the mammal. Armistice Day celebrations were held across the Lower South Island, and family fun racing events drew the crowds in from both Timaru and Wanaka.
This giant female sperm whale got stranded at Christchurch's Brighton Beach in November, and despite the best efforts of rescuers to refloat it back into the sea, the whale tragically died. In Dunedin, parts of the city were closed off for different reasons. Bayfield High School was cordoned off by armed police following an online bomb threat, which was followed by other nationwide threats. And more than 1,000 residents near Green Island were temporarily left without power after a large truck crashed into a power pole, bringing down electricity lines. The Queenstown Lakes District Council marked the start of a major restoration project at the town cemetery after damage caused by heavy flooding in late September.
What we're doing is clearing the smaller debris, cutting down things as much as we can.
Meanwhile, Arrowtown Cemetery was full of life as volunteers worked to restore a series of grave sites in time for Armistice Day commemorations. Flags flew at half-mast across Otago and Southland as families came together to pay their respects to those who fought in World War I and II. November also marked the end of an era for Invercargill's beloved department store, H&J Smith, the Southland community gathering to see the doors close for good on the chain after 123 years.
A mix of relief, sadness, achievement, satisfaction.
Meanwhile, Queenstown residents were welcoming the opening of a new restaurant chain as Hollywood celebrity Mark Wahlberg and his brothers brought their Wahlburger chain to the region. And the South Island was featured on the small screen overseas, Dunedin playing a prominent role in this year's Christmas marketing campaign for UK health and pharmacy retail giant Boots.
We really wanted to demonstrate that regardless of your budget, we've got something for everybody to give back to the givers in your lives.
And as November drew to a close, festive spirits started to ramp up as NZ Post's team prepared to deliver gifts across the country and expecting a busy Christmas season. Across the South Today.
And now we conclude our look back at the year of 2023 in news from across the South. December began with smoke in Parliament and talent in the paddocks, and our news year wrapped up with the festive light displays and Santa parades spreading Christmas cheer across the regions.
There was justice in early December as Dunedin man Lance Moore was sentenced to prison for manslaughter after running over 28-year-old Sean Bewis in a drug altercation last July. The new coalition government of National Act and New Zealand First was sworn in and announced plans to repeal anti-smoking laws. That prompted a backlash from many southern doctors who condemned the decision.
I've seldom seen clinical staff more unified. Because this is not a morally grey area, there is absolute certainty about the harms of tobacco and smoking.
The Queenstown branch of community food charity Kiwi Harvest found a new temporary depot at 5 Mile after months of uncertainty and upheaval. And the start of summer saw rural events move outdoors, Toko Marero's AMP show having more than just livestock on display, with Milton's Got Talent performers taking centre stage.
The amount of talent and the skills that come out of the woodwork, people you wouldn't pick them as being entertainers, and they turn up on stage and doing a great job. So that's really cool to see.
Gore got into the Christmas spirit with a Santa parade through the town centre, with Dunedin able to host its annual festive march through the almost completed George Street once again. The partial completion and pause on CBD roadworks helped encourage more Christmas shoppers out to Dunedin malls, buying last-minute gifts for loved ones.
Lovely, very busy though, but it's nice, it's good.
Novelty socks. So can't show you because you're a bit rude. Good, I feel like it's a bit last minute, but I'm getting it all done.
And in Christchurch, the popular Shands Road Christmas experience lit up again. It's billed as the biggest of its kind in Australasia, providing thousands of Cantabrians with a good dose of festive cheer. Across the South Today.
And that's a wrap for our 2023 year in review. Thanks for joining us this year, either through watching us on air at Channel 39 or by joining the digital audience on YouTube and the ODT. We've appreciated you sharing your stories with us and have enjoyed the privilege of being able to cover the regions of Otago, Southland and Canterbury through our videos. So from the whole team here at the South Today and Channel 39, thanks for being with us and supporting us over the years. We hope to see you online in the future. Mā te wā.
Public interest journalism funded through New Zealand On Air.